Hey, sports fans, Coach Nick here, and welcome to BBallBreakdown. I am pleased to have Spencer Dinwiddie on the show with us, the Detroit Pistons point guard, and also the pride of the San Fernando Valley. Spencer, thanks for coming on the show today. And let's see, you just got out of practice, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, talk a
Thank
little
you
bit about. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. Well, I think a lot of people probably are wondering what a practice is like at the NBA level compared to maybe college or high school. Is it the same?
For us, it is. Some teams you hear a lot of stories. Obviously, I've only been with the Detroit Pistons going on my second year. You hear a lot of stories about how some teams don't practice. We do. We practice just like college, just like high school. We get in there and we practice.
Wow. So when you hear other teams that don't practice, I mean, literally, like they're not even meeting, or they just kind of hang out and talk more than they actually run around.
Well, yeah. So you hear about teams that do more video, individual work, things like that, and their times they may only be at the gym for an hour, hour and a half, or whatever for a day. Like we get there. Young guys, especially 9 o'clock. You're gonna get there, get your early work in. Practice is gonna be from 10 to 1 probably. And then you're doing your recovery stuff. So your day is probably 9 to 2.
How seriously are you treating your body? I mean, I know a lot of young guys probably don't care about it as much and don't think it's important. So are you in there with a good diet and working out and all that kind of stuff?
Oh yeah, right before we got on, I mean, I'm sure you probably saw me eating a little bit. I was a kale salad. I have organic strawberries over there as kind of my little lunch dessert, and some like grilled chicken. So it's not too much fun stuff, I guess.
Wow, that's very impressive. Would you give me a percentage of first year or maybe within the first 3 years of players in the NBA right now that actually do eat healthy?
Oh, I would say for young guys, it's probably really hit or miss. Maybe 30-40%
Hmm.
young guys. But when you talk to the vets, a lot of vets they take it real serious. The taking care of your body and squeezing those extra years out starts to become a lot more important as you start to hear about older guys.
So let's talk a little bit about, Coach Van Gundy was an assistant when I was at Wisconsin. So I got to spend a couple
Okay.
of years with him in practice. And, my impression, my memories of him around that time were he was a really funny guy and really kind of lighthearted. We've heard what, Shaq has said in the past. And it didn't always fit with my impression of how he was. He was, he seemed like a guy who understood the rhythms of the game and could really communicate. Do you feel that way?
Oh, what does Shaq say?
Well, Shaq says that I don't want to listen. I hate to speak ill of Coach VG, but he was. What did he say? He would freak out in games and like kind of get all so tense that he couldn't really quite explain what he needed to have happen.
Oh man, nah. I mean, Coach is a good dude. He's got a sarcastic wit that I mean, if you understand it, it is kind of funny. But nah. I mean, I think at the same time, I think his practice schedule is foreign to a lot of guys in the league. So that's why you get comments like that. For me, it's all I know. So it's cool. It's just like college. And other than that, I mean, yeah, he's a perfectionist. So he wants
Mhm.
everything to go right, and he just really wants to win at the end of the day. So I don't think it's coming from a bad place.
Well, let's talk about the differences between even the training camp and the preseason now versus last year. Obviously there's some personnel changes already. What's the feeling like on the team?
I think there's a lot more optimism versus uncertainty last year.
Hmm.
You had Moose with his contract thing going on last year. You had questions about fit with Josh, and then just overall questions with the new coach and everything going on last year. And I actually didn't even participate in training camp last year because I was still hurt at the time. This training camp, like I said, it's all optimism. We have a lot more continuity in the lineups. Both lineups play the same way. There's you know and then there's a lot of young guys, young talent out here. Pope, Stanley Johnson. Obviously, we just signed Reggie to a big contract, and then Andre, is probably gonna get a big contract either soon or this summer. So, we have a lot of optimism going into the season.
And then obviously, so the uncertainty, you hear about that a lot where you don't want it to be a distraction and everyone freaks out about that. And you kind of wonder on a day-to-day basis when you're in the middle of a season if you even like are aware of that. Is there a feeling like do you actually, is it a distraction in the middle of the season?
Well, see, a lot of it is what outsiders make of it. During the season and in the day to day, you're not, showing up to practice like, oh man, like he has a contract situation. You're showing up to practice, you're playing with him, everybody's competing and working hard and trying to win at the end of the day. So, a lot more of it is the outside, it's the after the game, the pregame, things like that. But when you're on the court for those 48 minutes, like, you're not thinking about something like that. You're trying to win a basketball game.
Well, let's get onto the court because you just mentioned that, and I'm kind of curious what your thoughts are, especially as a point guard.
Yeah.
There must be subtle or maybe even not so subtle differences on the court this year and how you guys are actually attacking in the offense.
Oh yeah, like I said, the continuity in the way the first and second group plays is a lot different this year. Stan has stretch fours in both lineups now. Attacking threes. Pope and Jody obviously both can shoot it exceptionally well, and then you guys lob threats for five men. Between Joel Anthony and Dre. Really, the only change of pace that we have is Aron Baynes can shoot a little bit. So that's really the only subtle difference between the lineups. So as far as on the court goes, there's a lot of continuity there.
We talk a lot about spacing and how you need to have spacing to make these things work, especially with Coach Van Gundy's offense. Is that a real thing? Do you really feel like if you have shooters out there as opposed to quote unquote non-shooters, do you actually notice that?
Oh, for sure. Spacing in the league is a big thing. So in college, obviously you can pack the paint. There usually aren't just exceptional shooters all throughout one squad. It's usually one or two per team, and when the talent gets condensed at this level, you really see the difference. And I mean, there's two ways to space the floor, obviously vertically and horizontally, which via shooting or lob threat. So Stan obviously prefers a center to be a lob threat, and then space that around four shooters. And you do definitely notice the difference. But at the same time, with a guy like Aron in the second unit when he plays, you also notice the difference with him being able to hit a 15-footer. Because, a center, obviously the trend around the league now is to drop and play very close to the basket and try to deter guards from getting layups. But when you have the throwback threat and a guy that can hit a 15-footer, puts a lot of indecision in, and it's kind of foreign to a lot of fives.
That's a great point. And it's interesting because I don't even know if people would even say that Aron Baynes, is a good shooter per se. But I think what you're trying to say is at least the spacing can still exist. It just depends on what position you're talking about, right? Spacing for a center is 15 feet.
Exactly. Even 12 feet is really spacing for a center because any situation where you're putting a guy in a foreign situation, like Dre's never probably really had to guard a guy that can shoot 12 to 15 feet. Outside of Brook Lopez, Marc Gasol, there's just not very many centers. I mean, unless you classify Tim Duncan as a center, but then you start getting or Powell, but then you start getting into guys that are really kind of multi-positional. But like as far as true centers, I mean, you can count them on one hand how many guys who can really shoot 15 feet or even a touch beyond. So just the threat of that puts indecision in a defender's mind, and that's really all you need at this level is that split second.
Well, let's talk about your best season possible for this year, your goals as we wrap up here. What are your goals for the season? What do you want to be able to, I don't know if you want to put numbers on it, but what are your goals for this season and what will be successful for you?
Success for me, I mean, I think still everything has to be team-centric, obviously, and we're trying to win basketball games and make the playoffs and be one of the better teams in the East because, we have the talent to do so. Obviously, everybody's always talking about the East being down and how Cleveland and Chicago run it. But, even if those two are the dominant teams, it's still wide open, obviously, with a lot of good teams, Washington, Atlanta, et cetera. But there's no reason we can't be in that conversation with the type of talent we have. And then, to put numbers on it, I mean, I'm fighting for the backup spot right now. Obviously, when Brandon comes back, I'm sure it's his. But until he comes back, trying to, prove that I belong, prove that it's mine. And then from a backup point guard, getting 18 minutes, 20 minutes, something like that, 7 or 8 points with like 5 assists, something like that would be, I think, probably more than adequate for a backup point guard getting 18, 20 minutes, something like that, a game. So whatever would be great is what I'm shooting for and trying to prove, that I helped the team win.
Absolutely. And I think I told this before, but certainly the NBA works in mysterious ways. And just when you might think, oh, I'm never going to get a shot, like, bam, the next day something radically changed. And I think you saw that last year, too, where all of a sudden now you're playing.
Yeah, exactly. It was tough for Brandon to get hurt. It was really weird watching it because it was almost a year ago to the day that I got hurt as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like I was then on the other side of it, being a teammate, a reserve guy, watching that. But when we traded and Reggie Jackson had to sit out that one game and I started and we won, it opened up a door. It opened up an opportunity, as you said. And I started playing from there. I had a couple flashes that were pretty decent. And, like I said, so far in preseason, I've had, a little bit up and down, but I've been shooting the ball a lot better, minus the tough shots. And, so 7-4, 8-5, whatever it is, I think from a backup point guard getting 18, 20 minutes, I think that's probably would be one of the best in the league. So that's what I'm, trying to shoot for.
Well, fantastic. Well, I'm really excited to watch you get out there and play. And it's already been some terrific highlights we've seen the last year anyhow with you. So I know that it's going to go really well. And I can't thank you enough for coming on the show. And, maybe we can check back with you, later on in the year and see how things are going.
Yeah, no doubt. I'd love to.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us. And don't forget, sports fans, at BBallBreakdown, we're not a channel, we're a conversation. You in? Are you in, Spencer?
Yeah, I'm in.